welcome back to Season 5 of Porcelain Peak, a.k.a. CAMPOCALYPSE! We are the strange and scary podcast featuring Chop Talk, trivia, and deep dive main discussions into the odd and unusual. I am one of your counselors, Counselor Tone, and I'm joined by
Counselor John
and
Counselor, Internet Daddy, Anthony.
Ooh, Counselor Daddy. Yeah. This week for Chop Talk, we're going to give John a little gift, maybe share some highlights from Monster Palooza and a little bit more. Then we're going to play trivia. John coming off a solo win. Fucking crazy.
I like it.
You know, bad things can happen. And then for our main discussion, we are continuing with camp. And we are is it starting with camp? No, continuing. Yep.
Second week.
And we are talking about Wall-E and 9, which I am looking forward to a discussion on that. So, without further ado, we're going to go to Chop Talk.
Why don't you take an axe and chop it open?
Well, before we do any news, fellas, how are ya? Been a week.
It's been a week.
since I first saw what's inside of that bag. I'm doing really well. I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom as per usual.
Is it a video game?
It's Legend of Zelda. But on top of that, I also found out that the Wonder Years, my favorite band, they did a concert in March. They're going to be doing another show at the same place in September. Wow. So my ass is going to be there.
I have a question for you, John. Why did you tell Fred Savage to do what he did?
Fred Savage isn't involved in this.
Different Wonder Years, bro.
That's just the joke that I'm going to keep coming back to every time you bring them up.
How are you, Counselor Daddy?
I'm feeling refreshed, and I'm feeling like I can keep living life at least until next year when I can go to Monster Palooza again.
Or this year.
Or this year.
Son of Monster Palooza with Ramey and Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
Scott.
But yeah.
Just Scott? We're in Modesto. You can't make that joke, brother.
It's funny because as we're kind of getting to the end of the show, and we've kind of been gravitating, not away from horror, but into other sections and stuff, going to Monster Palooza just made me go like, I just want to talk about horror all the time, every day. I love horror. So, yeah. Whatever we do next, I have to find a spot for horror.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we went to Monster Palooza over the weekend. Not this weekend that you're hearing this, but last weekend. And highlights, I guess, briefly. We met Skeet Ulrich from Scream, and I had him sign my Scream Steelbook, which was fucking rad.
Yeah, I complimented on his assortment of pens, and then that
Pen 15?
that motherfucker was like, I don't bring the pens.
No, the peasants take care of it.
I let the little people. No, he was super nice.
Nice. Watched him destroy a donut, and I never felt more connected to him.
We were in line, and I was just like, yeah, but can I get one of them donuts?
Can I kick it?
if I have nicely. But
highlight for you, one of them, maybe? Hanging out with me for fucking 72 hours straight.
Well, I mean, that actually was probably the highlight. Like we just had an absolute blast. It was in Pasadena. The highlights were being able to hang out in a different place. That was cool. But really just being in a place full of hundreds of like-minded people. Everybody was so crazy nice,
dude.
Like everybody. I joked on the first day. I basically almost elbowed this chick in the face. She apologized to me. And I turned and was like, no, I'm sorry. But yeah, everybody was crazy nice. And it was just really cool to see everybody just so passionate, and also just the creativity on display. I mean, we got to see
V. Neal apply makeup.
Doing makeup, shooting the makeup on things like, Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands. We got to see her do a really dope Terminator makeup job, and then got to see that guy after walking around all wired up, dude, so he was had the lit up eye and everything. And then the next day, briefly, we got to see her starting on the Edward Scissorhands makeup, so that was dope.
I could have wasted the whole day there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then other than that, just having my heart almost jump out of my chest when we just turned a corner and Tom Savini was just sitting there, chilling,
just being a legend.
Yeah. So we never ended up talking to him because we were really nervous and autographs were a little expensive. But
I was really nervous.
I just didn't know what I would say. And then on
outside
the
of like, thank you.
Yeah. And then on the last day, as I was walking past his table, I gave him the old look at him, gave him a little head nod, And he had nodded back at me, and I went,
I
that's all
also
needed.
nodded, so I don't know if he was doing it to you or to me now.
Yeah, okay, don't overcomplicate this, okay? This is my moment.
Is this like
I'm
a?
not, but it's our moment.
It's like one of those like firing squad things where only one of you has the live round and no one knows.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Yeah, old Tony Roulette.
Savini, we're coming for you.
Oh my goodness! But John wasn't able to make it, unfortunately.
Womp womp.
So Anthony and I banded together.
Brought him back a little memento.
Got you a little memento.
Am I going to be able to remember it?
I don't know.
That's a memento
and he
joke.
has absolutely no clue what it is because we definitely didn't call his wife while she was in the car with him and ask what shirt size he was.
Crinkle it more.
Oh my god, it's a shirt!
Ooh, that's dope.
Describe it with your words.
It is a The Ting t-shirt. It says The Thing in big blue letters, like the ones on the cover of the film. And then it also has like the spider head that pops off of one of the characters, iconic characters, the one you see from all of the scenes from it. It looks fantastic. I love it. I will wear it.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody who's watching can see, but I'm wearing this Hereditary tee. I just fell in love with it as soon as I saw it because it's so fucked up and brutal. But that's the same. It's a group of tattoo artists, 2 tattoo artists from this place called Tomb from Salem, Massachusetts, who did both that shirt and the Hereditary one that I'm watching or that I'm wearing. So yeah, they were both at the same booth, and I was like, I got to get that Hereditary, and I was like, we got to get that Thing shirt for John.
Yeah.
I've been wanting a Thing shirt for a long ass time. I've like put a few in like carts from different places, and then just never pulled the trigger on it. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that was also
nice
my
and
goal while I was there, was
creepy.
like fill out like the horror movie shirts that I don't have. So I got an Evil Dead one as well, and then
So good. If you didn't get it, I was going to.
and
I
that
loved it.
That was also the cool thing, is that like a lot of those shirts you probably would never see anywhere else or be able to get anywhere else, because a lot of them are, you know, artists putting it, like this shirt. They were like, yeah, we just bring different designs every year for different things. They had a sick Hellraiser one at that place, but yeah, if you get a chance, I would say absolutely it's worth the money that you'll spend on it.
Worth the price of admission.
I would definitely recommend doing the full 3 days if you can, because we were so overwhelmed that first day that we got there that I think even with the amount of time we spent there, we didn't see.
I don't think we saw everything,
Yeah.
which is crazy. And we only really went to one event and spent a little bit of time in line. Like the ski line only took us like an hour, 15 hour and a half tops.
Oh, and I will say the real highlight was that your sister and your niece came out for the day.
They did. My sister came out in a Porcelain Peak shirt. Got to
Oh,
represent, you
rip
know.
snail.
Loved it. Fuck off. John, not my sister. And my niece came dressed up like a little vampire.
The littlest vampire, yeah. And she really wanted to go to the Hocus Pocus panel that they were having, and we really wanted a chance to sit in an air-conditioned room for an hour because we've been on our feet all day. So we went to
gracious
the
guys that we are. We
Yeah.
said, girl, we'll take you.
We're givers, and so we just we went to the Hocus Pocus panel, which is sweet. Got to listen to Doug Jones and Mick Garris and a bunch of the other actors from and people involved with and a really awkward and weird moderator do a Hocus Pocus panel, and we got a little sneakily peekily at the end to a Doug Jones Nosferatu movie that they have been working on for several years, which we thought was fitting because we just talked about that little fucking freak.
Yeah, there was a lot of Nosferatu stuff, so I'm glad that we had just watched it. Because I was like, that's cool, I know that. And Anthony also and I came to the realization that we did not make one Mark Wahlberg Nosferatu joke in our Nosferatu episode, which seems fucking crazy.
Nosferatus.
Blew my mind that happened. Anyway, yeah, I got this cool little virus shirt. It's got a little Bowie style to it, a little Pride style to it, and so I thought that was cool. And, you know, Elvira's tight.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll meet her in a few months.
Maybe.
That would be dope. But yeah, if you are listening to this and you want to go to Monsterpalooza next year, if you end up making that happen, definitely hit us up. Because I think if I don't make it in October for this Son of Monsterpalooza, I'm definitely going to be saving up for next year's Monsterpalooza. But yeah, That's about all I got to say about that.
All right. Do we want any news, or we say fuck it?
I got a few things that I think should definitely be mentioned. Also, I just wanted to say that was probably the most active that I've been on our social media in a long time, posting all the shit for Monster Palooza. So thank you to everybody for the likes. A lot of that stuff was really well received, and that's thanks to you, because some of you paid for it. So yeah. So biggest bit of news that I wanted to mention is that the director / actor Jim Cummings, who's from a lot of different horror projects, he tweeted today that quote, "It's happening. SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, just voted in an overwhelming majority to strike. Everything will shut down July 1st if they don't reach a negotiation. Power to the people. Solidarity."
Is the writer's strike still happening?
Yes, writer's strike
so
is
they're
still
both about to be out at the same time.
Yep.
So writer's strike is still ongoing. Obviously, SAG is about to start theirs as well. From what I've heard, they've already attempted to try to reach a deal with the Directors Guild, which makes sense that they would go there first. But we'll see how any of that pans
luck.
out.
One of the things that Mick, what's his name?
Garris.
Garris was talking about. I mean, didn't go into detail, but we kind of knew what he was talking about during the Hocus Pocus panel. Was like, yeah, like they gave him credit, like, you know, you're a great writer and everything you did, and we couldn't have done this without you. And he accepted that, and he was like, yeah, true, but also like I have to write 4 actors, so really it's a massive team. Like no part is insignificant compared to another.
Yeah, exactly. None of them would be on that panel and getting all that love if he hadn't originally written it, and if they hadn't acted, you know, to where everybody fucking loves them and loves that movie. Then, well, that's an excellent segue into another bit of news, which is that Hocus Pocus 3 is confirmed. It's officially happening. We don't really have many details beyond that. They kind of talked about maybe doing some spin-offs after last year's Hocus Pocus 2 came out. So yeah, I mean, I thought Hocus Pocus 2 was, you know, fun, hard for me to like really look at all the same way as the original, just because I grew up with that movie every single Halloween, so it has a very nostalgic place in my heart. But I had a good time with it, and I think kids had a really good time with it, from the moms and the dads that I asked about it.
I was head bobbing because anytime you can get those gals back in the room, it's a vibe.
Love me some Bette Midler. Insidious: The Red Door's final trailer dropped. I did not check it out, but the little screen cap I saw was a really cool picture of the lipstick demon, so I'm very excited that he's coming back in full force. Also, the trailer from the tiny clip that I saw is calling this the conclusion to the Insidious story, at least the Lamberts part, because we already know we're getting a Kumail Mandy Moore spinoff, like we talked about last week.
All right.
So it won't be the end of all of the Insidious, just this version of Insidious.
Let it die, guys. Just let it die.
I mentioned this to you on the car ride down to Pasadena, but John Carpenter recently confirmed that he has directed an entire new horror TV show from the comfort of his own couch. So he directed the entire thing virtually. The show is called John Carpenter's Suburban Screams. There's no details about where it's going to be streaming or when it's going to be coming out.
Sounds like some shit that's going to go straight to Shudder.
Yeah,
or Screambox,
which is now available on Apple TV if anybody's interested. Bloody Disgusting's streaming service, which will
Why
actually get me to sign up for it. Yeah, he did their theme. The boom, boom. Yeah. And then
he fell asleep on a keyboard real quick. And like, here you go.
Yeah. He said that the whole thing was filmed in Prague, and he was just like on a monitor directing it, which is how a lot of directors do it these days since COVID, because a lot of directors had to direct remotely for COVID. But so look out for that whenever that gets announced as coming out. And let's see what else. Oh, so I saw Across the Spider-Verse. John saw Across the Spider-Verse last week. I won't go into huge detail about how awful my theatrical experience was. Had a lot of problems, mostly due to poor picture projection and what I thought was the theater having fucked up sound. But now I have heard from multiple different reviewers that the sound issue is an issue at tons of theaters, and a lot of people are complaining about it. And Phil Lord, one of the writers of Phil Lord and Chris Miller fame, actually tweeted about it today, and with these little stickers that say I played Spider-Verse at full volume because I'm awesome, with tips on what you should tell your theater before you go see the movie. So Spider-Verse friends, if you get to the theater early and you want a fun mission, ask someone to check that the theater volume is set at reference 7. If it sounds a bit quiet, invite them to turn it up to 7.5. If they give you flack, tell them the writer said it was okay. So yeah, it turns out that that's an issue with a lot of people. And so yeah, if you haven't seen it yet and you're planning to go check it out, ask your theater beforehand if you have the time, if they can make sure their sound is turned up to where it needs to be to play the movie properly, because it was really fucking annoying for somebody who loves Spider-Man to not be able to hear any of the fucking jokes or anything that anybody was saying.
I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of theaters are already aware of this being a problem, because you watched it at like 6, I watched it at 10, and I was in the exact same showing room, and by then all of those kinks had been ironed out and I was able to hear. So I'm guessing that because multiple people complained during your go
People
around
walked out of my showing, so I'm sure they were complaining.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that during that they probably were on the horn with somebody from Sony being like, what the fuck gives with this? How do I fix it? And they probably tinkered with it as much as they could, and they found a good balance. So my experience ended up being great, so your mileage may vary.
Yeah, or just pony up and see it in IMAX if you can, because you're pretty guaranteed to get banging sound and banging picture in an IMAX theater. That's how I'm going to see it next. I saved the best news for last.
That Josh Hartnett is going to be in Black Mirror?
No, but I did.
That was the best news.
I did find out that Charlie Brooker tried as an experiment to write a full episode of Black Mirror using ChatGPT, the AI thing. And he said at first you start reading it and you think, this is not bad, and then you realize that it's just looked through every plot of every Black Mirror episode and then just like mulched it up and spit it back out at you. So he was like, then after a little bit you realize it's complete shit.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I guess South Park recently did an episode that was almost entirely written by ChatGPT.
Really?
Yeah, so I'll have to check that out. Yeah, definitely. But no, this is on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. What I hope is going to get you guys all riled up and excited. So Michael Keaton was recently interviewed, I'm sure promoting The Flash, about Beetlejuice 2. And he said that they are going with a very old school practical effects approach to filming the whole thing. And his quote was, it says, Keaton explains, we're doing it exactly like we did the first movie. There's actually a woman in the great waiting room for the afterlife, literally holding a fishing line. I want people to know this because I love it. Tugging on the tail of a cat to make it move. He says, making stuff up, making stuff happen, improvising and riffing, literally handmade stuff, like people creating things with their hands and building things. Keaton continues, it's fucking great. It's the most fun I've had working on a movie, and I can't tell you how long.
That sounds fucking tight.
So if that helps to put your mind at ease a little bit
That's
about...
what we wanted. That's exactly what we said we wanted. And I think we should call it Beetlejuice.
Well, that'll help us
Beetle
from summoning him.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice. The tooth is juice. Yeah, so I mean...
The juice is loose, baby!
We'll see if, by the time this movie comes out, we'll see how much of that actually survives into the movie, and if it...
Let's hope they don't pull out the thing and then CGI over all of the practical effects.
Yeah, but if Keaton says he's having a blast with it and that they're doing everything handmade and old school, I'm like, good. I mean, that's literally the only way to make a Beetlejuice sequel work. So, very
right on. That is very exciting. I'm glad you saved that.
Yeah.
But also, Josh Heartthrob is pretty good, too.
Yeah, I'm always down.
Right on. That's going to wrap it up for Chop Talk. We'll go ahead and get started with that trivia.
That Christmas house of wax, the fog, piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
We are continuing with movies trivia game. This encompasses more genres than just horror and
Wait,
sci-fi.
is this the movie trivia movie edition?
Yep.
Okay.
So we will do 2 cards. Each one contains 4 questions. I'll read them to John. John will read to Anthony. And Anthony will go back to me. And the first category is...
Teeth.
Comedy/animation.
Yeah. All right, John. Your first question is, what film stars Audrey Hepburn and brothers Humphrey Bogart and William Holden? Holding these nuts got him.
You didn't even give me an opportunity to jump in.
Yeah, because I knew you were going to say it.
Yeah, he kind of got you with a boom headshot right there.
Let's see.
Right to the nards.
I'm drawing a blank on Audrey Hepburn film, so I'm just going to say Breakfast at Tiffany's.
It is Sabrina.
Okay.
And I said, what about...
Breakfast at Tiffany. All right. The line, "I know who I am. I'm the dude playing the dude, disguised as another dude," is from what Ben Stiller comedy?
Tropic Thunder.
Is indeed Tropic Thunder.
That's one I need to rewatch. I think I've only seen it once.
Oh, it's so
Back in
fucking
the-
good.
Dude, I know. I would lose my shit. Tone. Who plays Juno in, wait for it, Juno?
Ooh, how new is this card?
Not new enough.
All right. Elliot Page.
Ooh, actually it says, no, I'm just kidding. It is indeed Elliot Page.
Right on. Well, on the board.
Hell yeah.
And what? I didn't even say anything rude.
No, he just wanted you to grab his finger.
Okay, John, you're at fucking 0, loser. We're moving into action and adventure. John, released in 2020. What is the third installment in the Bad Boys franchise called?
Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah, because it is Bad Boys for life.
Yeah, that's why you're waiting for that. That's why you're waiting for the completion that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to get snailed.
Yeah. Do you think that they're really kicking themselves about calling it Bad Boys for Life
When
and
they
now
could
they're
have
having
waited
a
for the
fourth one
fourth-
coming
yeah.
out?
Are they?
They've said that they're going to do a fourth one, and I'm like, yeah.
cow.
So you should have saved that Bad Boys for Life.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we can't all have the amazing and
Foresight.
non-confusing titling conventions that the Fast franchise has.
Yeah, or that we have.
Still should have been fast 10-year seatbelts. Anthony, who plays Sherlock in the 2009 film Sherlock Holmes?
Is that Robert Downey Jr.?
The dude who's disguised as another dude. Yeah.
They
Weird.
themed him.
The double Downey.
RDJ.
Sometimes you got a double downy.
Tone. Harrison Ford plays what CIA agent in Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger? I wish George Lucas would die.
Is it Jack Ryan?
It is Jack Ryan.
Nice.
Most recently made popular by.
It's actually
Krasinski.
Gak Ryan. It's a real legitimate situation.
Nope. All right, Anthony and I are at 2, and John is now on the board with his measly 1.
Fucking bastard.
You should have gave me the finger. And now we're moving into drama/musical. John, what Benedict Cumbersnatch film has the tagline, "Behind every code is an enigma"?
That's weird. He's also a Sherlock.
Behind every code is an enigma.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Not enigma.
Yeah. Edward Enigma.
Behind every code is the Riddler, the Puzzler,
The Quizler.
yeah, the Quizler.
Oh, shit. Because there were like a few movies of his that came out that like were all in like a year or two.
He's got a
range
big
where they're-
thing for like those period piece movies about fucking electricity and shit.
Yeah. Oh, it's not this, but it came out around the same time. The Imitation Game.
That is correct.
Oh. Okay.
Nailed it, baby.
Nailed it, baby. And daddy. Counselor baby and counselor daddy. I don't know what that makes me, but I don't
hate
want to know.
all of this. As the eldest in the room, I hate all of this.
And I hate to break it to you, but your counselor adopted.
Anthony, what subject does Richard Dreyfuss teach in Mr. Holland's Opus?
He was in Jaws, correct?
Yes.
I
Yep.
heard today that they are officially making a Legos Jaws set.
It's going to have the orca, and then obviously it'll have
No, it's a
Bruce
shark.
alongside.
Got him.
I'm
Fucking idiot.
unplugging your microphone.
Yeah. Sorry, it's got the 3 dudes. Gang's all there,
Yeah.
and then
Bruce.
Bruce. But what I'm hoping is this opens the door so we get even more dope, like official horror themed Lego sets.
Yeah, I'd
Be
actually
really
start
rad.
collecting Legos and start spending too much money. So what did Richard Dreyfuss teach in Mr. Popper's Penguins, right? Was the question?
Yes.
That's not what the movie is called, but yes.
Mr. What is it?
Holland's Opus.
Mr. Holland Oates. Okay. What subject did he teach? Philosophy.
It's music.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because you said Hall & Oates. You were all over it.
Dang.
I did not make my dreams come true, unfortunately. Tone,
It's a beautiful movie, by the way.
for your drama/disturbing question, who plays Fred Rogers in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood?
I believe that is Tom Hanks.
Timothy Hanks.
It is Big himself, Tom Hanks. I loved it when you played Big.
All right, cool. So I'm sitting at 3, and you guys are at 2.
Yep.
And we're moving into horror and sci-fi. John, who is Iron Man's wife? And it gives you a list of options here, and you're not getting them.
Pepper Potts?
Well, that is correct. The options were pepper, salt, or spice.
Spice Girl.
No, I actually wanted to know who Robert Downey Jr.'s wife is.
Couldn't tell you.
We got a lot of Robert Downey Jr. cards randomly on these. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that wasn't his card, but he was an Iron Man.
Anthony in Time Bandits. 11-year-old Kevin takes off with a band of time-traveling what?
This is also a movie that I haven't seen and don't really know anything about.
I wouldn't have known this.
Time traveling dinosaurs.
It starts with the D. It's dwarves.
Oh, I thought it was just going to be bandits.
Time-traveling bandits. Time bandits.
Like, this game's easy, but not that easy.
Who has this?
Dwarves?
Yep, dwarves.
Well, Tone, for your softball question, who plays Norman Bates in Psycho?
Tony Perkins.
Can you give me the full name?
And
Esquire.
Anthony Perkins is correct.
Nice.
Anthony
All
Perkins.
right. So I got the 4, and you guys got the 3? Or no?
3, 2.
Oh, he missed that one.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay, 3, 2, 4.
Quickly falling behind.
All right, and we're going back to comedy and animation. John, what are the Blues Brothers trying to save?
Rock and roll.
I mean, sounds plausible to me.
Is it like a specific like nightclub?
Is that your answer?
Yeah.
Incorrect. It is the orphanage where they grew up.
Yeah.
They're trying to break dance to save the community center.
Turbo and Ozone, baby.
Blues Brothers 2, Electric Blue Glue.
Anthony, who directed the live-action remake of How the Grinch Stole Christmas?
So weird. I was just thinking about Arrested Development on the way here. That's Ronald Howard.
It is indeed. It probably is Ronald Howard.
What if it was Ronathy or Ron Free?
Ronston.
Tone, who plays the jerk in The Jerk? It is multiple choice. If you would
Steve
like
Martin.
them. It is Steve Martin. Didn't even need it.
Yes.
Killing it.
Tony's on fire. All right, I have now 5, and you have now 4, and you have now 3.
No. 3,
Oh, he's
3.
missing it again?
No, 3, 3.
Oh, you missed it.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking fuck. I'm done. I'm sorry. I love you. John, in your action adventure question, what 2001 heist movie asks the question, are you in or out?
2001?
Are you an innie or are you an outie?
Is it Ocean's 11?
That is correct. Nice, buddy.
I was between that and The Italian Job. I think The Italian Job came out a couple years later. Anthony, in Reindeer Games, what do the thieves wear to rob a casino?
Masks.
Is that the final answer?
I mean, is it masks but more specific?
No.
Or Santa suits.
It is Santa suits.
Reindeer Games.
Yeah, I'd never seen it. Just took one. I was like, okay.
All right.
Tone, who voices Pikachu in the movie Pokemon Detective Pikachu?
I believe that's Ryan Reynolds.
It is Ryan Reynolds.
Say it more stupid, though.
Ryan Reynolds.
All right. So I have now 5,
6, I think.
6.
Yep, that's
Six-
math.
six
yeah,
fo
you're
fo.
right. 6 fo fo. Great. And we're moving into drama musical. John, in what film does James Franco cut off his arm?
Spring break.
Is it 127 hours?
Yep, close enough.
Is it?
127 hours,
Yeah.
not 800.
Return to the finger. Hold that, asshole.
Yeah, see, if it was called 127 hours, it would have come up in the A part of our roulette. It's 100.
Not W.
Anthony, what 90s film stars a death row inmate with supernatural powers?
The Green Mile.
Is indeed the Green
Oh,
Mile.
does he have supernatural powers?
Yeah.
Yeah, he can like heal people by touching them.
I've never seen it.
He heals Tom Hanks's
Talk about a fucking depressing ass movie.
yeah, he like grabs his balls, Tom Hanks's balls at one point and like heals some sort of
ED.
ED or something, yeah.
Phone home.
Tone, what is Dorothy's last name in The Wizard of Oz?
Wow, that's a good question.
Dorothy,
Dorothy,
Dorothy, come home,
do you
Dorothy.
know it?
I don't think so.
Dorothy,
It's Dorothy. Dorothy is the last name.
Dorothy, a female thief.
Door, she'll drop a house on you. Dorothy Fitzgibbons.
So fucking close. It's Gale.
Oh, like Gale Force Wind?
Uh-huh. Gale. Dorothy Gale.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Well,
So,
you've been knocked off your high horse.
655.
655.
Getting tight. Close.
It is getting tight close. You are correct. And we're moving into horror and sci-fi. John, what actress was cast alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall?
Total Recall. Is it Sharon Stone?
Ooh, that is correct.
Hell yeah, brother.
You know your mother's no Sharon Stone.
Yeah. I was literally thinking Matthew Lillard in my head. Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring you a pizza. Maybe you'll consider that a divorce.
Anthony, in the original Night of the Living Dead, which you've seen in every horror film for all of eternity because it's in the public domain, 7 people are trapped in a rural farmhouse. How many of them survive the night?
Give me a little more groan.
Oh,
A little deeper. Give me a little deep one. Oh, I like that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
sound like you could be on the set of this film.
Of the Night of the Living Dead. You would think, having seen this movie a million times in segments, I would know the answer to this question for sure.
And they do specify
I know
that
who
it is the
doesn't
original.
survive,
Yeah.
Hello.
but I'm not sure if anybody does survive. I don't know. I'm just going to say no one. No one
And
survives.
No one is the correct answer.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure, but I was like, did maybe one of the annoying characters sneak off at one
All right,
point?
as of right now, it's a current 3-way tie.
Love a good three-way.
Oh, fuck. Well, Tone, your sci-fi horror question is, what top grossing Japanese thriller provided the plotline for The Ring?
Really?
Yep.
Ringu?
It's an impossible question, but you nailed it. It is indeed Ringu.
Congratulations, sir.
If only you hadn't read me most of the title.
But I guess the questions don't necessarily increase in difficulty, right? They're just different categories.
Yeah.
Scategories, if you will.
Well, I'm glad that game was as close as it was, and that John did not take the win for a 600th week in a row.
I wanted a
So-
sweet, man. Have his name us swept these yet?
No.
I wanted it. I was so close. All right.
Will we quote?
Well, congratulations to me. Feels hella good, but that's going to wrap up trivia, and we're going to take a short break and then dive into our camp movies.
Stick around.
Fool.
Oh, man.
Oh, bitch.
All these fools.
Join the creep cult. $5 a month at patreon.com/porcelain peak for exclusive content, merch discounts, and more. Join the creep cult. $5 a month at patreon.com/porcelain peak for exclusive content, merch discounts, and more.
Hey, you want to see something really scary?
Welcome back, campers.
I mean, we're here too.
Crushed it.
No, I don't give a fuck about you
Nailed
guys.
it.
Anyway, we are doing Campocalypse. Here we go. Woo, 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 woo.
Yeah,
I say let's go worst to best this episode and talk 9 first, and then end with the masterpiece that is WALL-E.
Yeah, giving away our thoughts on 9 already. You said the worst.
Well, okay, between the two, I think
Yeah.
we all knew WALL-E was going to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, masterpiece, Oscar winning.
Yeah.
So let's dive in because we have continued this somehow continued this animation train rolling through 2 more weeks, and
Happy to support because animation is fucking tight, and more people should view it as art and cinema and.
yes,
And sometimes it does. So this one, I believe Shane Akers, and I didn't see anything else on his filmography on the Apple TV anyway.
Yeah.
But produced by Tim Burton. I believe this was a short first that he then made into a feature-length movie. It stars Elijah Wood, Jennifer Connelly, John C. Reilly,
Christopher Plummer,
Yeah, Christopher Plummer.
Kristen Glover,
Landau, I
Martin
think?
Landau,
Christopher
Alan
Glover.
Oppenheimer, Fred Todd
Oppenheimer.
your cousin of J. Robert Oppenheimer, inventor of the atomic bomb.
Oh, shit. Okay, I didn't
Yeah.
know that, but
I
I,
looked
saw the
in-
name, and I was like, that's coincidental and
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, so I looked into it and it was like, yep, in the IMDb trivia it said they are cousins because like Oppenheimer doesn't seem like a common name you just run into
Old
off the
Oppie.
street. But yeah, a little bit of background on this movie. Yeah, it is directed by Shane Acker based on his 10-minute short film that was Oscar nominated in the short animated film category. That came out in 2005. Tim Burton saw it and was like, cool, let's I want to produce that and let you make a full movie out of it. And yeah, this came out in 2009 to little to zero fanfare. I did see it in theaters, and I remember
So did I.
walking out going, that was weird. I don't know if I liked that.
I did. It's like a dark version of Little Big Planet. pretty
Kinda,
much,
yeah. I watched this on an iPod Classic on an airplane.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever
So you
heard.
were really immersed in the experience, right?
I then
You're
watched
like
it
one
on.
step away from it, Vision Pro. Dude.
Yeah.
Well, he was like, well, to those little rag dolls, this would be like an IMAX screen. It's like I really want to put myself in the Stitch Punk's shoes.
Yeah, so the apocalypse in this is classic man versus machine. The machines take over and destroy the earth, and in a last-ditch attempt to preserve life, an old man, and we're going to go into spoilers, and directly with this, then fucking Horcruxes himself into these sack puppets and puts
Stitch
soul
Punks.
into them. Yeah, so we learned that the reason that the machines didn't work when they created them with a brain was because they didn't have a soul. And so he puts this soul into these sack puppet machines, and they have lives, and they're nice.
Yeah, so we follow around 9, who is silent for a little bit of the beginning of the movie. In the original
Yeah.
short film, there's no dialogue. 9 is completely silent throughout the entire thing. But yeah, he runs into this little colony of the other ragdolls led by Christopher Plummer's 1, who is very much like, the classic, I'm in charge and I don't want you guys to be doing anything that could risk the safety of all of us because they are constantly being hunted by these crazy ass robot monster
Like
things.
Sid-esque creations. Or
Very Sid-esque, yeah.
Yeah, I will say I enjoy this movie. I think the performances are decent. I think that it's a tad long, and I think that it is pretty derivative. Like, there's nothing here that we really haven't seen before as far as, like, plot and story go. The only thing that's different is, like, the sack puppet idea.
It's
Yeah.
funny that you say that it's long because this movie is 79 minutes.
Is it? It feels a little... Like, there's parts where I'm like, let's keep going.
Well, so before I knew that this was originally a short film, I'm pretty sure when I first watched it, my thought was that would make a great short film, but went on a little long for the material it had, and now I understand. It's like, yes, it should have stayed a short film, or done something longer form where we could really dig into like this world and get into some more details that don't feel as like surface level, typical run of the mill. And that was most people's big complaint with this was it looks phenomenal. The animation is fantastic.
Very
but
much
the
so.
story has just been there, done that from
Right.
beginning to end.
Yeah.
And really that's what it is. Like I could not, as hard as I tried, connect to any of the ragdoll characters just because you just don't. It's the movie to me moves so quick from one thing to the next to get to the end that you don't really get to spend much time with any of these characters.
fair,
They have all their little like individual quirks, or just the way they're designed makes them kind of quirky, but you never really get to know anything about Nine outside of he is just, I'm gonna be a hero because I'm the hero of the movie, and so I'm gonna be the one who wants to like do right by and it's like I just
I
don't feel
connected
like
with 5. It's John C. Reilly's character when he actually got the old life suck. I was like, oh, that was kind of a bummer.
well, and it's brutal, like just how it just
Yeah.
sucks that green soul goo out of their faces,
Right out of the face. And
What do you think?
I mean, I think they try to shoehorn in some like development that doesn't get earned, like at the very end with one like making the decision to sacrifice himself in place of 9.
It's like, see what they did there, because he said sometimes you have to sacrifice one,
Oh.
and he is one.
Yeah,
Then he
I
sacrificed himself.
don't feel like they've quite earned that much of like a character development, because obviously this is the character who the whole time is like, oh, we gotta follow all the rules and stick together, because if any of us are lost, then it'll go to shit or whatever. But I think the movie is fun. Like you said, it goes on for way too long. There were several times where I was like checking my watch, a couple times where I was like, I'm gonna pick up the Switch, try to
So
play a little Tears of the Kingdom.
There are parts that I thought were legit kind of scary. Like
Yeah, oh,
the-
yeah,
the
it-
cat thing or whatever the fuck, and then that bird thing. I was like, fuck yeah.
It
to me,
plays
the-
up to PG-13 big time.
To me, the most horrific thing is the seamstress thing. That's like a weird centipede that has like the husk of 2, like as a decoy that like flashes the trance-like lights and then sews you up inside of its body.
Yeah. Some pretty
Reminds you
horrific
kind of like
stuff.
an anglerfish that has like the fucking thing on the
But
front.
I think that's
to,
where the
like,
problem
lure
comes
you in.
from, is that the movie is too dark for like a young child audience, but it doesn't have enough substance to really hold the interest and entertain for an adult audience. So it falls in some weird limbo middle area. Because I think it gets pretty dark and fucked up. So it's not necessarily a kids movie, and
No.
I don't think kids would really get much out of it. They'd be like, "Oh, cute sock, but oh my god, their souls are getting sucked out." And so, but I think this world is really interesting. Like, I love the sense of scale between the Stitch Punks and the like when they're walking around human stuff, and you get that little brief thing of like humans running by when the War of the Worlds machines come down and attack, and you get to see like how small these puppets are compared to everything, and then the little stuff like 9 building the lamp, like screwing the light bulb in.
Yeah.
And like I loved the sound design. I thought was fantastic, of all the like metal and the way the material moved and everything, and it all felt very tangible, especially for something that is going for a stop motion aesthetic while obviously being completely
Computered,
CG.
yeah.
I think it pulls it off pretty well while not going into like the hybrid territory that something like Coraline, that came out a year before this, was going into. But
Also features probably the most popular and well-known track from Coheed and Cambria, which is Welcome Home.
So good too. Also has a villain that is a like circle red-eyed robot, which probably a reference to 2001: Space Odyssey, which then is directly referenced in WALL-E. And I was like, what the fuck are the chances of that?
I didn't even put those connections. Like, I put the 2001 connection and WALL-E together, but I didn't even put it together that both of those movies were referencing that same thing. And
Like,
that's
have
100%
that main villain, yeah.
where the reference is coming from. Like, anytime you need an evil computer brain, you just give it that red eye.
Yeah.
Then you know it's bad. It's like giving a character a Samsung phone.
You know they're a piece of shit.
Well, once again, the theme of, and this will continue into WALL-E, this continued theme that we've had of humans getting too big for their britches and destroying the planet that sustained them. And I like the idea of the scientist being like some part of humanity needs to survive. So like, even if it's just my little pieces of my soul going into you guys, like that's enough. And then in the end, we get, similar to something like Mononoke, we get a little with the water, the rain droplets falling on the screen, and you see all the little spirit bacteria inside. It's like, ooh,
maybe
so
life will start
life will
anew, yeah.
potentially, because
Life
of
finds a way.
the sacrifice of the
Sacrifice.
sacrifice. Arugula rice has helped bring, hopefully reawaken the vegetation on the planet and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think
Would you recommend it? Like, did you enjoy it at all?
if you are a huge fan of animation and you just want to see like a cool one shot, I mean, it's only 79 minutes. It's not a huge waste of your time. And I do think that, I love Elijah Wood in anything. And I do think he gives, for what he's given in this, he gives a really good performance.
I liked his performance in this a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets very, emotional and passionate about, and it reminded me of like some of his Frodo-y scenes in Lord of the Rings. But yeah, I think the cast is great. All of the voice acting is pretty good. Jennifer Connelly, if I didn't know it was Jennifer Connelly, it wouldn't have really stood out to me. But that's just because there's so many of these ragdolls that, again, you don't get a lot of time with all of them. I thought John C. Reilly's performance was probably the most emotional of all of them. But yeah, I mean, if you're into the sort of like steampunk, post-apocalypse, the stitch punk look of these things, then yeah, definitely check it out. I think specifically just to see how a really excellent animator does, like, when they get the chance and the funding to just do their own thing, which it totally makes sense that Burton would be the one to produce something like this, because that's how he started out, was like working at Disney and them giving him money to do his own little weird projects. And so this feels Tim Burton in that it's about like these, weird outcast characters. And so, because that's what really stood out to me in this, is just the way the camera moves in this, the way how fluid the animation is, the way they're able to express emotion, similar to something like WALL-E, with just those like telescoping eyes, and just all of the attention to detail. It's a gorgeous movie that I think still holds up, over a decade later. So visually, yeah, I would recommend it. Just don't expect it to be like
blown away by the story
or moved by the story.
What do you think?
Double down on that. Yeah, I think that it looks fantastic. Even 14 years removed from original release, it still looks great. But
we're getting old, fellas.
As far as the story is concerned, it's followable. So I mean, you're not going to be like if you go in with low expectations, you'll be very excited about the animation and you won't be disappointed by the story or the performances. So I think it's a recommend.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I recommend it too. But yeah, like Anthony said, it's not going to blow you away with the story. It's all shit that you've seen.
Yeah,
including
and
War of the Worlds and 2001 and Terminator.
The director's done a few other small projects that weren't feature films, but he's mostly gone back to teaching animation as a university professor. So I'm like, well, anybody who's learning from him is learning from somebody who knows what they're doing, because the animation is the standout in this. So
it's also fully and wholly overshadowed by the fact that we watched WALL-E this week as well. Yeah.
I watched WALL-E and then watched this. I was like, I should have watched this first and been like, okay, cool. And then be like, oh, fuck yeah. Because WALL-E, like I said, it's a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah.
Dude. You want to give us some little background on WALL-E? So, yes, 9, we recommend it. Know what you're getting into. It's decent.
And then do what we did. Follow it up with WALL-E. Similar themes, but just done to the nth degree. Just pushed all the way up.
Yeah, so the apocalypse here is humans have put way too much trash and garbage on the planet. And
consumerism has run rampant and
can no longer support...
by and large...
Yeah, can no longer support like growth of vegetation, really. And so they go on a 5-year cruise in a space station, and that lasts, was it 700 years?
Yeah, so this is directed by Andrew Stanton, who is a well-known Pixar director. He did this, Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, and John Carter.
Oh. Stick with animation, fella.
Yeah, and like I said, after 700 years of doing what he was built for, he'll discover what he was meant for. WALL-E is the last robot left on an Earth that has been overrun with garbage, and all humans have fled to outer space. For 700 years, he has continued to clean up the mess, but has developed some rather interesting human-like qualities. When a ship arrives with a sleek new type of robot, WALL-E thinks he's finally found a friend and stows away on the ship when it leaves.
Yes, so WALL-E is a little box. If you don't know, he collects trash and compacts it and then into these little cubes and then builds massive structures with it.
Yeah, I think it stands for Waste Allocation Load Lifter Earth or something like that.
Okay, yeah, and there's R's.
Yep.
Those things are massive.
He is fucking adorable.
Fucking adorable. But like you said, with 9, he's got these eyes.
Yeah.
And that really sells it.
It's the...
So I did not... This movie had so much fascinating behind the scenes info, like reading through the Wikipedia article and reading through the IMDb trivia. Just the amount of work and passion that Pixar puts into their stuff always just blows me away, where I'm like, man, a part of me still always wishes that I'd gone down that path of becoming an animator and trying to, because it just seems like they all are just genuinely really fucking excited about what they're working on. And the idea for WALL-E came from a now infamous lunch that took place between John Lasseter, Pete Docter, and John Raft in 1994. Toy Story from 1995 was about to be completed, and the writers sat down to brainstorm ideas for the next project. Out of this lunch came the ideas for WALL-E, A Bug's Life, Monsters, Inc., and Finding Nemo.
It's fucking crazy.
Hell of a lunch.
Hell of a lunch over at Pixar, yeah.
That's like $1 billion lunch, if minimum.
But also, those are just fucking banger movies.
Yeah, so this was originally supposed to be, they had it titled Trash Planet, and then changed it to WALL-E with one L, and with a bunch of dots in between. And Steve Jobs himself said he loved the concept, because he was obviously a part of Pixar back then. He loved the concept, hated the name with all the dots in between the letters and everything. And then they were afraid that people would call it Whale, because it was WAL-E. So they added that extra L, and also said that it is a mild tribute to Walt Disney. WALL-E, Walt.
Oh,
Disney.
That's cool.
So Ben Burt voices WALL-E, also M.O., the robot. But Ben Burt is super famous for doing all of the sound effects for Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Pixar stuff, tons of your favorite movies. Basically, any iconic sound from, like I said, Star Wars, comes from him. He is the guy who popularized using the Wilhelm scream in movies. And he had just gotten off of working on Star Wars Episode 3, I think. Would that be right? Does that timeline match up? 2008? He had just gotten finished working on one of the Star Wars movies and told his wife, I'm not working on another movie that has robots. And then they called him up about being 80% of the cast of WALL-E, and he was like, he just loved the idea.
Is he?
Well, because he's not only the voice of WALL-E, but he's also doing all of the sound effects throughout the entire movie, and he's also working on all of the voices for the other robots. So he's pretty much acting as the sound of almost the entire movie. And then
we want to go. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to go through the rest of the cast real quick. Then you have Alyssa Knight. She actually is just an employee at Pixar, and they needed somebody to come in and do, because Ben Burt couldn't get his voice high enough to do Eve. So they brought her over and did some tests with her, and they were like, no, we like you enough. We'll just cast you in the role. She's done some other voice work for some more recent Pixar stuff, not usually main roles, like supporting roles and stuff. But Alyssa Knight is the voice of Eve. You have Jeff Garlin as the captain, Fred Willard as Shelby Forthright, B&L CEO, in a weird little addition of live action to the movie.
And Ratzenberger, right?
John Ratzenberger as John, and Kathy Najimy as Mary, and Sigourney Weaver as the ship's computer, which I thought was funny because isn't she the aquarium voice in?
And no, she is Sigourney Weaver as Sigourney Weaver's voice in Finding Dory.
No, she's the voice of that aquarium.
Yeah, I guess when she was asked to do this and was doing the voice, Stanton or Ben Burt said, "Isn't it funny now you're playing Mother, like the ship computer from Alien?"
Yeah,
and she was like, "Oh, I hadn't even thought about that." But she also played the computer voice in Galaxy Quest because her job is just to repeat what the computer says on the ship. In that, she has a great voice for computers.
So eventually Eve comes to Earth and finds a plant, and because of that, her programming immediately sends her back to the spaceship. WALL-E tags along, and then chaos basically ensues, and we learn that the humans are very obese. Their bone density is gone because they're not moving. They're traveling around in
like little hover scooters. Yeah.
And they're not even aware of what's going on around them because they're covered in screen, which is fucking crazy relevant.
You've been looking at the news, the past couple days.
And everything's kind of automated, and it's just all about consuming. And as soon as WALL-E gets there, and I think this is fucking brilliant, we see how disconnected the humans are and how detached they are from everything. But then we also see that the robots and the machines in this world are so advanced that even the lowest grade robot that is just a cleaning robot is able to think for itself almost as soon as we get there.
It immediately moves off of directive and is like, I gotta clean this fucking stuff.
And I was like, that's so subtle, but such brilliant writing, because now it shows the intelligence of even the most smallest machine versus the lack of intelligence from the captain of this fucking ship even. And he's like, yeah, I needed to go do this. Like, yeah, he's still fulfilling his mission, but he's doing it how he wants to do. He's starting to think for himself.
Yeah, I wouldn't even
or
see
itself.
lack of intelligence from the captain, but I would say
Lack of awareness.
yeah, lack of awareness and amount of like gaslighting from this ship. And you can tell that at this point that this ship has likely shooed away other efforts to try to find a place for them to dock in order to continue with being able just to keep things afloat based on the directive it was given by, you know, by Fred Willard's character.
Well, and you see, like, you know, it's not like they know any different. It's not like they're going like, oh, yeah, no, this is like paradise. I mean, they feel that way, but that's the only thing that they've known because it's been 700 years. So you see he goes down the photos of the captains at one point, from live action captain to his current, you know, tubby Pixar captain. But it's been several generations in 700 years, so these people don't even know what Earth is like. So you have that really cool scene where he's sitting in front of the computer and he's like, computer, tell me about dancing.
Yeah.
And he gets to,
So
he learns about
fucking
farms
cool.
and he's like, it's amazing. And I just love that idea of somebody like getting excited about the most basic Earth shit of just like, you can plant a seed and it grows food like pizza.
yeah.
The movie's funny. In
Yeah.
that part where they're like, we have a pool? It's like, yeah, they've been surrounded, but they're so unaware of everything.
Well, and the captain, like, when you first meet him, you think that he's just going to be like, oh, whatever, like this. But as soon as he has a purpose, he immediately like snaps into action and wants to do everything he can to be the captain.
It shows human will, like, which I think is, I mean, you know, what separated from this like consumerist lifestyle, like human will is why we've gotten to where we're at today.
I think the message there is that we can be better if we try to be better.
Yeah.
And if we are aware that we're doing shitty, we should make a difference. And I feel like we are aware now and we're not doing it. Like, and he, in this instance, what you're saying, he becomes aware and then is like, immediately I'm going into action.
Yeah.
Well, and they also, the writers and everybody behind this was saying that like a big part of this is this idea that a lot of people think that living a sedentary life, like in a paradise, or like in a, you know, and being not having to do anything, and you know, being somewhere beautiful with all your needs met would be paradise. But really, like, part of the human spirit is working and doing things, and that's how humanity got to the place that it is with these people on this spaceship, is through hard work. And so they kind of have to relearn that lesson of, oh, we need to go back to Earth and put in the hard work. And then also the whole thing of, you know, because the robots now have gotten to a point where they're sentient and they can feel things like love, they're reteaching pretty much the people, because then you have the couple who takes their screens off to see Wally and Eve flying through space, and they do the little, you know, hold hands, touch hands, and they're actually inspiring the people to remember like what having a relationship with other people is like.
Which then, I know that's kind of a little bit out of character for the movie, but I was like, well, how are people reproducing if it's been 700 years and they're like,
well, at that point they probably have some sort of like
so I'm
pods
curious.
that
I
they
know
just,
it's like not relevant to the movie, but I was like, well, that's interesting. What do you guys
Yeah, there's
do?
got to be something that's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, there were certain things like that where they were like, oh, well, is Wally hermetically sealed so that the plant would have survived out in the vacuum of space with it inside of him? And then how does it travel in Eve's hand through space? Blah, blah. And they were like, at some point, you just got to stop worrying about the little details like that, because you're worried about the million other details about putting this together.
Yeah, but it's beautiful. The story is silent for a good chunk of this movie as far as like vocalizations go.
They watched
we get
a
little
shit
bit
ton of Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, because
makes a lot of sense. It
they,
feels like it.
They came to the realization that they felt that since the advent of sound movies, directors had become too reliant on dialogue to tell their story, and they were like, you can go back to these silent greats, Keaton and Chaplin and all them, and they can convey every human emotion without sound. And so they were like, we can pull this off with Wally. Like, and to me, that's another amazing thing about animation, is giving yourself a challenge like that. Mm-hmm. And also not just having one shaped robot you have to figure out how it's going to express itself, having multiple shaped robots, and then on top of that having all the details of like, okay, well, we want to design Wally so that he looks like kind of like a little tractor, and they got inspiration from visiting recycling plants and stuff, and they would take
Kind of a short circuit vibe.
Yeah.
well, yeah. So the director said that he did not realize until after the movie was made that there was a huge similarity between, was it Johnny Five and Wall-E. He said that the eyes are actually inspired by a pair of binoculars he got while seeing, I think, a Dodgers game. And he said he was so distracted by how cool the binoculars were that he missed the entire like
like going like
inning
this
of the game. Yeah, but he said like that's inspired by that. Johnny Ive actually came in from the Apple designer, came in and co-designed Eve for the movie,
Wow.
and like gave his sign off on Eve's design. But things like they didn't want to make it too easy on themselves to have Eve emote by having her be able to put like hearts and different shapes on her eyes. They were like, no, that's too easy. We got to make it a little
And why
bit
would
more.
she have that as part of her program?
Exactly. So there is a huge attention to detail that goes into like how these robots function.
It's
and
not a DreamWorks
even-
movie.
even the movement, like, so for Eve, like, there are moments where she's like frantic, and you can see kind of the motion and how quickly she moves, and the way that just kind of like those like floating arms kind of adjust and change. And even without having a display that shows like, you know, a furrowed brow or whatever, you can still tell, you know, that she's like in distress and that she's trying to like correct for something, based on just the way that they animated the movement.
That and a little bit from the voice acting too. I mean, when she's scared for Wall-E, she is like Wall-E, you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
you are getting some of it, but it's very little bit. And again, it's the movements and it's all his actions, and it's got to tie back to all the Buster Keaton and Chaplin stuff.
Well, and I would imagine that was hugely stressful for them to wonder if audiences were going to be completely turned off by characters who say at most one or two words. You know, you have a couple human characters in this, but like the characters you're really supposed to empathize with and connect with are these characters. And they'd obviously come off of something like Toy Story, where, you know, and they wanted to go even further with that. Like, how can we make it even more of a challenge for ourselves? But like, that's how we know we'll succeed, is if we can get people to now empathize with things that are even further removed from humans. Because at least in Toy Story, most of them have faces, and
They're very humanoid, yeah. And these aren't like androids. These are just fucking random ass robots.
But I love that, like, yeah, each of the robots, their design is based on whatever their real life purpose there is. Like, Wall-E is the way he is because he is optimized for trash collecting and compacting, and so they, you know, had to figure out how they were going to put his arms on tracks because they wanted him to be able to wave, but they didn't want it to be so. They realized as they were animating him waving that it wouldn't make sense that his robot would have the ability to move his arms like that if his entire job is to grab trash and pull it inside of him. So they had to figure out like moving tracks to have his arms go up and down, and like things like that, where they're like, we, like you said, don't want to cross over into like Looney Tunes, DreamWorks, like, you know, noodly animation, which has its merits, but in this, obviously, they're going for something more realistic.
The beginning half of this movie when they're on Earth is at times like scary. Like the way that it's so drab and orange and then almost like Mad Max Fury Road kind of feel. I know this is before that, I think, right?
With like the cyclones and shit.
Yeah, and then
Not cyclos, but cyclones.
when she blows up that ship, it looks so fucking scary. I was like, this is like a kind of terrifying moment.
Yeah. They actually went and got like the same type of lenses that Star Wars was filmed on, like from the 70s, and they built a model of Wall-E and did a bunch of test shooting with that, because that's another thing that I didn't really realize, because you think with animation, like, oh, they can put the camera wherever they want, they can make it look as good as they want, and they were like, well, we want to make sure that we get those lens imperfections that you would get if filming a real movie, because that's going to help people believe that this is real. So
Is that typical with a lot of animation, or they did it specifically with Pixar stuff because they are detail oriented?
I think it's a Pixar thing, and I'm sure other animation studios do the same thing, but not to this degree of doing so much testing in terms of getting, you know, there are parts where I think it's like when the shopping carts are falling on Wall-E, and they sometimes have the camera like lose focus.
Yeah.
And they'll do like that like they're back here and then they zoom in really close, and it feels like the movement of a camera. Like I've seen, like there are other directors that like use that as like a staple to their, like I think James Cameron uses that very frequently.
Avatar, a ton of the like digital zoom, like
on
things. Yeah.
And they do this in multiple scenes.
It's wild.
In Wall-E.
Yeah, just a huge attention to detail, but unlike 9, just a ton of heart, which is what you come to expect from a Pixar movie.
And fucking gore. Like, I know we said 9 looked great, but this movie is fucking phenomenal.
The scene
Like,
that you
visually.
described earlier with the out in space, where it's the two of them and they're like floating around and everything.
With the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, it's fucking beautiful.
Like, it's like, it makes you want to fall in love. Like, this movie is brilliant. And when Eve realizes that she like has fingers or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, I want to like hold Wally's hand." Like,
And then
you
it
can
cuts to
see
Wally,
that.
and he's doing the hand holding thing, like on his other part of the ship, and they're both doing it at the same time. Yeah,
Good. And he like teaches the other robots like to wave and stuff. And when he leaves that like typing thing, is like,
well, just because you get such a, I mean, Pixar always nails their opening. The opening like setups of their movies, like Finding Nemo has a dope opening setup of how Nemo gets captured and all that, and then you with Up, you have just like the most heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So then you
The
understand.
Incredibles.
Then you understand where the characters are, from that point. And in this, that opening of just Wally by himself with his little roach friend, who's named Hal, which is partially a reference to 2001, but also a reference to a famous silent film director named Hal Roach.
oh,
So
that's
And that
funny.
roach is fucking adorable.
And the like directive for the ship is like A113.
which is their like
Classic,
classic.
yeah.
That's the room they all learned to do stuff in. But
We see the Pizza Planet truck. I mean, you get all the staples.
you get the Pizza
Yeah.
Planet truck. At one point, he uses the like lamp, the Luxo lamp or whatever, as like part of his sculpture of Eve when he builds it. There's a ton of references. There's like a scooter from Monsters University or something.
Well, and obviously,
like,
by and large, as a company, is used throughout the entire franchise.
yeah. And I guess having the live action segments to them, they felt like it would add to the realism of like this is a real thing that could happen.
And you almost can't tell. Like, like it could be computer animated because it's not like it's just camera. It's like them on a screen and it's all kind of distorted. So I think it works.
Yeah, they thought about going in and like cartoonifying it a little bit and changing it up, but they said that they did it purposely because they wanted you to see how drastic the change between humans back then and humans now is, like how far they'd fallen or whatever. But I like this movie also doesn't give like a really negative, irredeemable picture of humanity. It's not like, oh, they've gotten fat and lazy and disgusting, and so now like the robots are the future and the new future, and it's like, no, they just had to be retaught basic, like we said, basic human things like love. And
It's hopeful. It is shining a light without being preachy.
yeah, here's a quote. I did not put who the quote is from, so just assume it's from somebody who worked on Wall-E. Quote, "Wall-E is not a Luddite film," because a lot of people were saying like, oh, is this like an anti technology thing? Because obviously like the reason, part of the reason they've gotten to where they are is this over-reliance on all of their technology, and then you have the evil the evil autopilot, which was done with just Mac like type and speak or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they wanted like a Stephen Hawking sounding voice. There's a lot of Mac like Apple sounds and stuff. Wally's like charging sound is like the Mac startup sound, which makes sense. Steve Jobs. But Wall-E is not a Luddite film. It doesn't demonize technology. It only argues that technology is properly used. It only argues that technology is properly used to help humans cultivate their true nature, that it must be subordinate to human flourishing and help move that along, which I think
You can plug into the conversation about AI.
I was just about to say,
Yeah.
so it fits perfectly in what we're talking about with AI, which is I'm like, AI is fantastic if it is supposed to be taking jobs that are dangerous for people or jobs that people don't want to do. It should not be halting people's ability to flourish as humans by being creative and all that stuff. But
Well, it's kind of almost similar to what we talked about with the use of CGI. Like, yes, use it to enhance, don't use it to do everything.
Yeah. Agreed. This movie is fucking perfect. I
love
will
it.
go out and say that it is a 5 out of 5. I couldn't recommend it to like more highly. There isn't a single person I can think of that I could not recommend it to that would not have a good time with it.
Only disappointment for me is that I can't get myself a fully functioning Wall-E.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, if you pay somebody enough on like Etsy or one of those, I'm sure somebody could build you one that like picks up your trash, like a little, like build it into a Roomba so it can actually like vacuum up and stuff. Something that did dawn on me. One last little point.
Yeah.
So this was made before Disney acquired Star Wars.
Okay.
I have a very strong feeling that if this had been in production after, that this would have been a Star Wars droids movie, because it basically is already. I mean,
I'm glad it's not, though.
outside
Yeah.
of it being Earth and humans, it's basically...
BB-8 has like that floating head, almost the same shape head as Eve.
Well, and the droid B2 Emo or whatever from Andor reminded me a little bit of Wall-E. It was
Okay.
like the blocky and like all of his expression just comes from like little movements of his head up and down and swiveling and stuff. But then I read about Ben Burt being the guy who did all of these and was like, oh, that makes sense. But he did consciously try to stay away from Star Wars sound effects. So he was like, Eve's blaster is similar to the Star Wars sound effect, but he called it like a cousin to the Star Wars blaster sound effect. So he was trying not to repeat himself. But yeah, I love this movie. In hindsight, now that we've talked about it, it's definitely a 5 out of 5 for me. I rated it a tiny bit lower just because we had just gotten back from Monsterpalooza, and it was the last thing in the world I was in the mood to watch. I was like, I'm so in the mood for fucked up horror right now, and I'm watching this like cutesy little robot movie. And so my deep brain was like, yeah, this is really good. This is a really good movie. This is really... And then my like surface brain was just like...
Kill somebody.
So schmaltzy. Yeah, this is so schmaltzy. Nobody's getting stabbed. So, but anyway, yeah, no, it's a perfect movie. I agree. It got me to want to go back and I need to just nut up and watch Finding Dory. I still haven't seen it.
It's good.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's pretty fucking funny, too.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, that is going to wrap it up for our camp episode this week. We hope that you enjoyed that. Campocalypse. Next week, we are talking about Reign of Fire. It's about dragons.
D nuts.
There we go. And Water World. I didn't think so. Yeah, so join us for that. And check out our bonus episodes. We are talking about Panic Room and what was the other one?
Okja.
Yeah, fuck. All right, well, hope you enjoyed those, and we hope that you enjoyed this, and we will see you next time. I've been Counselor Toad.
I've been Counselor John.
And I've been Wally's Internet Daddy Anthony.
Daddy.
Daddy.
Thanks, guys.
Keep it campy.